One moment. Trying to do too many things. Give me 1 second. Okay. Here we go. Okay, here we go. I'll properly introduce him. Dr. Nicholson worked as an environmental engineer for Unilever, designing an environmental award-winning edible oil refinery, which produced oils for flora, margarine, etc. And a result of his work, he reduced the amount of water in the process by 75%, waste by 60%, and use of energy by 50%. This allowed that 40 million pound project to pay back in 3 years. Since then, he's been an environmental auditor in Hong Kong and China, focused on reducing environmental impact from all these dirty factories. Always has had an interest in alternative sources of energy, and being a canny Scot, even lately investing in solar and other energy saving measures for his home in Thailand. So he's going to talk about how alternative energy sources could be applied here in Thailand. So if everybody could please mute themselves so I don't have to mute you. We won't interrupt Ian. And then what we'll do after his talk, if there's a few questions, we'll take some questions, and then we'll do a brief open forum session. So with that, I'll let you take it off all by yourself, Ian.
Okay, well, good morning. It's still good morning. I'm sitting here like you were, and last week I thought I'm getting bored with this coronavirus thing, so what can I do to stimulate the brain? So I thought, well, how about doing a talk on energy? This is an old talk that I used to do in Hong Kong on a course of environmental awareness, and it was always funny because if you started talking about the environment, the Hong Kong Chinese would turn around and say, environment? We don't have an environment. Well, they did after a while. So anyway, I'm going to talk about what we can do maybe differently in Thailand, thinking about sustainability. So today we're going to talk about wind, solar, hydro, and geothermal, amongst other things. So let's first kick off with wind power. I think most of you know what a wind turbine looks like. I lived in Holland, and in Holland they had windmills. I always thought they were to make energy, but of course they weren't. They were there to pump water from one dike to another. So they were water pumps, but these are windmills. I had a holiday once and I drove in San Francisco to Palm Springs, and I went through this valley, and the valley was surrounded by these ugly windmills. I didn't realize how windy it was there till I jumped out of the car and I nearly lost the door from the car. So there's practical evidence of windmills. The US has gradually applied windmills, and the cost has come down to something like $45 per megawatt hour. Now, so that's $45 a megawatt hour in the States. If you look at the cost in Germany for onshore, it's about $4 per megawatt hour. So there's a 10-fold difference in price, which is why wind is very popular in Europe. If you look at the cost of wind compared to the cost of coal and gas, you see that unfortunately conventional combined cycle power with natural gas is still the cheapest. With onshore wind, almost competitive. And offshore wind is unbelievably expensive. Hydroelectric power is obviously another cheap alternative. And solar is still a little bit more expensive. So if you were to have a wind farm in Thailand, would it be worth anything to you? Well, it would, because the government will pay you 5.5 baht per kilowatt hour. You bear in mind that when you buy the electricity here, you pay 4.8 baht. If you make your own, you get 1.8 baht. So my solar roof, they were only prepared to pay me 1.8, which is a bit mean. So if you look what's happening in ASEAN, wind has actually taken off, but it's not that much. The nice thing about wind is it's got a very low environmental impact. That's what you would think. But unfortunately, if you're anywhere near one, it's very noisy. And the visual impact, as you saw in that picture from Palm Springs, is not very nice. So moving on, let's have a look at solar. Solar is probably one that you all understand. The system I have at home has got a panel, a charge controller, an inverter, and it feeds into the grid. I don't have any batteries because the battery system is very expensive. So where can you use solar? Surprise, surprise, between the tropics, where it's sunny. You could have worked that one out, couldn't you? So how about photovoltaic cells? Are they efficient or not? Well, currently, they're about 12 to 18% efficient. The most efficient ones now are up to about 24%. So if you look at the total global wind and solar installation across the world in gigawatts, it's actually increasing. And the forecast is that it will increase even more. So solar will eventually take over from wind. And this is Thailand. As you can see, they're not doing a great deal currently, but the projection is that they will increase it in a big way in future, which would be nice. So what you could do to increase the efficiency is use one of these focused mirrors, which focuses all the sun onto one PV cell, and it's much more efficient. It increases the efficiency to 72%. So this could be the future. If you had a rack of these in a desert somewhere, you could make a hell of a lot of power. So what else can you use solar for? Well, if you live in a cold climate, you need hot water. These solar water heaters, if you go to Hong Kong and look on the village houses, you'll see these everywhere because they're cheap to install and they cost nothing to run. And you get free hot water when the sun shines. Hold on, I lost my mouse. So moving on, what about other sources of energy? Biomass is a current one which they're trying to apply in Thailand. So biomass, you store it, you prepare it, you burn it, and you produce steam. The steam drives a turbine and you make electricity. So that's the principle. What is biomass? Well, you've got wood, you've got crops like biogas from sugarcane, alcohol, garbage, and landfill gas. And landfill gas is a serious problem here in Thailand. We've got hundreds of landfills, and they're open landfills. So they're generating methane like you wouldn't believe. Normally, in civilized countries, they will cap those landfills and burn the methane and convert it into CO2, which has got a lower global warming potential. So let's have a think about waste. What can we do? So we take the sun, we make sugar cane, we get the sugar out of it, which is a very inefficient process. You get 10% sugar and 90% bagasse. The bagasse you can, which is the sugar cane, the cane itself, push into a power plant, burn, produce CO2. CO2 goes to the atmosphere, and then hopefully the sugar cane absorbs it. So that's one way you could say you could almost get a zero carbon emission fuel, but it's not 100%, is it? So what about waste to energy? Well, as I said, you've got a situation in some countries, like in Hong Kong, where they have capped landfills. So they collect the gas, which is methane, and they burn it and make power. In Thailand, they're fairly clever, and they're trying to increase the amount of energy recovered from municipal waste. So you collect the waste and you burn that and you make electricity. So here's an example of what went on in Hong Kong. They took garbage, collected it, took it to a cement factory. In the cement factory, they would sort it into recyclable stuff and non-recyclable stuff. The non-recyclable, they would burn in a furnace and make cement. And the energy they would get from burning would fire the whole process. So that was a nice system. So moving on, we go to hydroelectric power now. Hydroelectric power is using the differential pressure between a body of water to drive a turbine. So it only has the moving parts of the turbine. There's no environmental impact whatsoever, apart from what happens to the fish downstream. So who's using hydro? Well, surprise, surprise, our coronavirus friends are number one. And of course, you all know that they're doing lots of hydro on the Mekong. Okay, they've done it in China, but now they're doing a lot in Laos. So those will come on stream. Some of them are already on stream. Right, moving on. Geothermal. Geothermal. What's that? Well, you have to live in an area where there's a hot zone. And you can just about see, we're just about there. We're on the edge of a hot zone. So basically you take geothermal, you take hot water up from below, you generate electricity and you pump it back down. And surprise, surprise, Thailand's actually on the list of places where they use it. And there's one tiny power plant in Phang, which is somewhere in Thailand. I don't know where it is. I'm sure somebody knows. So what about biofuels? Well, biofuels, basically bioethanol is made by simple fermentation of sugar, for example, cane sugar, and it works on petrol engines. So you all know that because we have it here. Biodiesel is made by converting any edible oil by transesterification with methanol, sodium hydroxide, used in refined vegetable oils, rapeseed, soybean, palm oil, sunflower, whatever, or used cooking oils. Only works in diesel engine. I don't know if you know, but Rudolf Diesel, when he invented his diesel engine, the first thing he ran it on was peanut oil. So using edible oils in diesel cars is not new. It's old technology. So there's the process. Methanol, catalyst, oils and fats, pretreatment, transesterification, washing, drying, biodiesel, and an important byproduct, glycerin. Think about where glycerin's used. So is it carbon neutral? Well, could be, I suppose. So the sun shines, the crop consumes carbon dioxide, you produce vegetable oil goes into biodiesel, it goes into a car, produces CO2, and that's a cycle. I don't think it's carbon neutral because look at all the energy you need to convert it. So biofuels are a solution. Well, short term, they're a quick fix. They're not sustainable because of the conflicts with food production. If you look at what's happening in Indonesia, they're chopping down that natural forests and replacing them with palm plantations like you wouldn't believe. So the biodiversity is being chopped. So there's the problem. It encourages deforestation and crop switching in non-ideal situations. Encourages monoculture. If you go to a palm oil plantation, which you can do around here, there's plenty of them. If you walk through, all you ever see is palm trees. You don't see anything else growing in there. Very much like bamboo. And of course, we're actually doing that because Thailand has no mineral oil. It has offshore gas, but it doesn't have oil. So you've got B10 diesel and E85 petroleum on sale now. Quick solution. So how about the cost? So look again, coal and gas is cheap. What about biomass? Biomass down here is twice the price. So it's not encouraging, is it? So let's have a look at Thailand's problems. Consumption to jump 75% by 2013. High demand and old power plants dependent on high costs of imported natural gas. Demand will grow from 32% to 78%, a big jump, double. And the old coal-powered power plants will fail. So what are they going to do? What's the government going to do? They're going to increase biomass to grow by 13%. They're going to increase solar by 9%. They're going to increase wind by 6%. They're going to increase hydro by 5%. But what they're not going to do is they're not going to use nuclear or coal fire, thank goodness. So there you go, that's the alternative. So the actual mass that they're going to generate is quite impressive. You can see solar jumps almost 4 times, wind energy quite a lot, 8 times, and biomass doubled. But where should we really be looking? Are these things that we are talking about here, are they totally sustainable? Let's think about what we should be thinking about. Do electric cars have 0 emissions? Do they? Let's have a look. Well, it all depends how you make the electricity. Where does the electricity come from? Because in Hong Kong, when I lived there, they encouraged everyone to have electric cars, but they forgot that all the electricity was made in a dirty coal-fired power station. And you can see here that coal is very dirty. So if you could run an electric car on solar, wind, nuclear, or geothermal, it might be clean and it might be sustainable. But if you run it on LNG, petroleum, or whatever, that's not good. This is nuclear, boiler water reactors and pressure water reactors. But we just said that we won't have nuclear in Thailand. So if we look at an average Euro car and compare it to a Nissan Leaf, for example, in terms of emissions, you can see there that you've got the manufacturing. This is carbon dioxide equivalents in grams per kilometer. So you've got the CO2 emissions from manufacturing. Then you've got the fuel, then you've got the exhaust pipe. Yeah. So obviously with an electric car, you've got no exhaust pipe. So if we look at the average carbon dioxide equivalent emissions across Europe, you can see it's an improvement because you removed the tailpipe ones. But the only place where it really works is in Norway. And why is that? Well, Norway has a very large manufacturing capacity with hydroelectric. So the environmental impact from hydroelectric, as I said before, is very low. So life cycle comparison, battery electric vehicle in the European mix, battery electric vehicle with coal, internal combustion engine with diesel, and internal combustion engine with gasoline. So again, it looks like electric vehicles are a possibility because it wins. So what about hydrogen? Everyone says hydrogen could be the future. So if you can take sunlight and make electricity with photovoltaic cells, you could then hydrolyze water and get oxygen, which they need in hospitals, and hydrogen, which you can run vehicles on using a fuel cell. So this is the actual manufacturing process for hydrogen. And if you look at it, it's very, very complicated. I used to work in a margarine factory, and we used to make our own hydrogen. It was very energy intensive and a very, very inefficient process, and it is dependent on fossil fuels. So to make hydrogen chemically is not an option. So what you have to do is think about making hydrogen from renewable energy. So we've just been through wind, solar, and hydro. So if we use those, we can electrolyze water, make hydrogen, and then we can run our aircon, we can make lights, we can use fuel cells to provide that power. We can think about it in transport. We could use it for cooking and house heating. There's actually a very large study going on in the UK now to say, can we use the old gas infrastructure and switch it to hydrogen? Now everybody says hydrogen, oh my God, that's dangerous stuff. But if you run a petrol station with hydrogen, it's not that much more dangerous than petroleum. Petroleum's very dangerous stuff, but you have to have a regime to handle it. Now in Norway, they've been doing it for years. Excuse me. So What could we do? Could we use the deserts to make a power source for hydrogen? We've got plenty of sun, plenty of space. Just need money, don't we? So we could actually have a whole hydrogen economy, a whole cycle, starting with water and then cheap renewable energy, and use hydrogen as the energy carrier. We use it in a transportation system, in cars, planes and boats, and in the residential for heating and gas, commercial, industrial water. So it could be possible to do the whole thing with hydrogen. But wait, is there not a simpler solution we can apply today? Well, I always thought the car manufacturing companies are missing a trick, because I always said, you know, the biggest problem with an electric car is you've got to charge it. And what happens if it runs out of a charge halfway through a journey? I always thought, why not have a small internal combustion engine sitting under your bonnet, like a lawnmower engine, to charge the battery pack so you can charge it as you go along? Well, surprise, surprise, Nissan are just about to launch one of those. So if you look at a normal electric vehicle, you have a battery, an inverter and a motor, electric motor. Yeah, but this battery has to be charged. If you look at a conventional hybrid, you have a battery, an inverter and a motor. So that's one energy stream. And then you've got a power generator and an engine to run the car. So you've got two motors, very inefficient. So what Nissan are about to launch, and you'll be able to see it soon, is they have a small engine with a power generator to feed the battery, then an inverter and an electric motor. So the electric motor drives the car, not this engine. This engine is only there to charge the battery. So it comes out, it's supposed to come out this month, and it's called a Nissan Kicks. It features a 3-cylinder, 1.2 litre engine with a maximum power of 79 horsepower. So it's a small engine. It generates electricity to recharge the batteries. The engine does not send power to the wheels. The car is driven by a high-powered electric motor, maximum power about 130 horsepower. So this is not dreams, it's going to be reality very soon. So that just about gets me to the end. So you've seen some alternatives. Where should we go? Okay, that's your lot. Thank you.
Hello, Dan. I finished.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Thank you, Dr. Ian. That was quite interesting, and I like the pictures. This is all recorded, and it was also broadcast, still broadcasting live on our Facebook page. And thank you very much. I'll unmute people if anybody has any specific questions. And then what I'll do is let Richard talk for a moment about the 2 WhatsApp groups we set up after anybody has any questions for Ian. Everybody's unmuted. Okay, there's everybody. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Ian. Very good.
Thank you.
Why are you upside down?
He's German.
Yesterday in the night, 2 o'clock here and 8 o'clock in Germany, there was another meeting. That's the reason why I have the name Knappe 55 in hyphens 383. This is my name in this group.
Okay, that's
I don't know why.
But your camera's upside down. All good. All good.
Yeah, you
All right.
know do you know how I can fix it?
I'm not sure. This is the first time I've ever seen this.
Yeah, maybe I found the idea. It's because coronavirus. Everything is wrong.
There we
Everything
go.
is upside down.
There we go. All right. Barring no alternative energy questions. Richard, you unmuted?
Yep.
All right. Everybody else be quiet, please. Let Richard talk for a second, or I'm going to have to mute everybody.
First,
Yes, I'll mute everybody.
First, a thanks to Ian.
Hold on, Richard. Hold on. I have to unmute you. I got to find you, Richard. Hold on. So we don't have any background noise. All right, Richard, go ahead. You're unmuted.
First, a thanks to Ian. Very interesting talk. I saw some of those things like the solar saucers up in the Himalayas like 20 years ago in Tibet. They were boiling kettles but they weren't like smart factory models. They were much simpler, but same principle, using the solar energy in the high mountains. Very interesting. We've started these 2 WhatsApp groups, and we hope people will keep in touch. We can relay some club news that way as well, and we can share opinions. One is like a general open forum, and the other one is about condo tips. I live in a condo, and that presents certain risks that are different than if you just live in your own house, because you are sharing the common facilities with a lot of other people. So as Neil said earlier, you've got to be very careful of like touching surfaces in the reception area. You know, when you go down through staircases, you need to be very careful what you're touching, and use all the hand sanitizers you can, which condos are now putting out, you know. So keep, as Neil said, keep washing your hands. Very important. That's probably the most important thing, you know. So if anybody wants to get some news about condos, please join that group called PEC Condo Tips. It's on the homepage of the website. You just click the link, and then you're in and you join the group. There are things that are like concerning me to do with AGMs in condos, because we shouldn't gather. And I believe now the government is going to allow a legal postponement for AGMs. I'm going to find out a bit more about that, and then I'll put that also out in the group. It means like people like me who are committee members, I should be finishing my 2-year term this month. Like, what do I do? Do I just continue, you know? So there are things we need to know if we live in condos. So please join us on those WhatsApp groups.
Thanks, Richard. I'll make a couple of comments. I see a bunch of people join from the link and then they leave, probably because there's lots of messages popping up on WhatsApp. There's a way, if you click on the group, just at the top of the WhatsApp group, and it displays the actual members and everything, you can scroll down and click mute for a week, mute for a day, mute forever, and then all those notifications will stop coming. I mean, you'll see it when you open your WhatsApp, you'll see, oh, there's 37 messages in that group. However, you won't be disturbed by ding, 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 or eat up your battery and all those kind of things. The open forum one for sure would be a good one for everybody to stay in. So we have a direct, easy way for direct communications with lots of people to stay connected. And the condo one's more designed just for condo things. Some overlap in the groups. Try not to post the same things in both groups unless it's of general information, not condo related. Okay, that's on that subject. Yeah, Richard.
Can I just pop in again?
Yeah, sure.
I want to just comment about the idea of the curfew coming at 10 o'clock tonight for 6 hours and then every night. I read a report on Associated Press which gave the exemptions to that. So like medical workers are exempt, also banking, the delivery of consumables, it said. So you should be able to get maybe a late dinner, you know, delivered to you. Newspapers can be delivered, for example. Shift workers can come back late from their shift work. And especially for expats, you can do trips to and from the airport in the curfew hours, right? And lastly, Dan, thanks to you to set this up, because it's another first for the PEC. I think we've beaten every expat group in the country to do one of these. Okay, thanks very much, Dan.
You're welcome, Richard. I'm familiar with Zoom, haven't used it for a few years, and all the other platforms. Bradley, you want some paper? No, quiet, quiet. I'm in a meeting, buddy. Sorry. Joy of no childcare, no school, no nothing. All right, excellent. Does anybody unmute people, unmute everybody? If you have background noise, mute yourself. If we have any general questions or discussion, we can do it because this is set up as a meeting, not a webinar. So everybody is now unmuted.
Hello.
Yes.
I like to have an announcement.
Hold on. Go ahead, Jahir. Everybody else be
Okay.
quiet, please.
First,
A second. Jahir was first.
thank you to Ian.
Wait a minute.
And
Remember to
for
keep the radio
Richard's
playing. Please
information,
mute.
I will have.
Go ahead, Jahir.
You've muted him.
Go ahead, Jahir.
I have nothing to say. Thank you.
Oh, I thought you had something to say. Okay. Niels, go ahead.
Yes, there's a thing that we should be aware of also.
Jahir, mute yourself, please. There's background noise.
Question about the COVID-19 pandemic. It creates a lot of people, especially low-income people in the Thai society, who have no income. And they are in a very, very dire straight situation where getting food on the table is an issue. And this is something that could create a lot of petty crimes and even bigger crimes. 11 robbery. Police are very aware of these problems with the rise in crime. So in your house, in your apartment, be aware of closing doors, closing windows, and be protective of potential crimes. I think this is an issue that we have to deal with very, very soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Niels. All right, let's unmute our buddy here who's upside down. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I have a question or an announcement for Richard. I stay in a Laguna Beach resort, and sometimes for 2 or 3 months I stay in Germany, but I have to pay electric because between the company and between me, there is a management from the company here, and they take money. And I have another one. It is in Flybird condominium. There I have an information from the electric company to pay my bill. And when I stay in Germany, I have nothing to pay. Why can I change, or how can I change the first part? Somebody knows?
Okay, so that was a question for me, right, Dan? Yeah. There's 2 systems if you live in apartments. One is you get an electric meter yourself as an owner from the government, and then you just pay the government rate, and therefore there's no extra charges. But you must realize that the government supply rate to condominiums and hotels is higher than in a house. It's not a domestic tariff, so it is a higher per unit cost anyway. But then the second system is there is an intervention by, let's say, the apartment house owner or management that will load the government rate, and so you're paying a little extra, and that's probably where your extra bill is coming from. It's not the consumption of units because you're not there, but there are management fees if you don't have your own government meter.
Okay, thank you. I will come to you when I see you in live. Then I will speak to you with that. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any other questions or final comments? Excellent. Okay, we're did pretty well for time. Total of about 40, a little over 40 minutes. We'll try and keep these meetings 40, 45 minutes long, so everybody's not stuck sitting in front of their phone or their computer all day. And next week we will have Patrick Lewinger, who's the MD of Pattaya Prestige Properties, to talk about real estate during this wonderful time that we're in. Everybody be safe. stay out of trouble. Niels has a question. Yeah, go ahead, Niels.
Yes, I'd like to announce that next week we will have Mr. Alan Judge, the owner of the Pattaya News. He will join our meeting with some very valuable news items about Pattaya. I think it was something we planned for this meeting. Fortunately, practically possible. But next week and the following week, he will have a slot. He will be able to give you the latest news from Pattaya and linked up with a network of Thai reporters, and he provides that to his website. My company has a joint venture with him that he's providing news and we are providing a platform. So we look very much forward to hear from Alan John next week.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you. Have a great Friday. What's left of it? Well, it's middle of the day. And we'll see you next week and have a wonderful weekend. This has been recorded, so we'll clean up a little bit on the front end and we'll have something that we can post on YouTube. And it's also on our Facebook group, not on both. I guess there's not a way to stream to both at the same time. So it will be in the Pattaya Expat Club group that 13,000 people can see, and the lives stay recorded so people can watch them again. So thanks again, everybody, for the first ever virtual Pattaya Expat Club, and first of hopefully not too many. We'll continue the Facebook Live aspects when we can resume in-person meetings. But until then, we'll keep doing it this way so we can serve and help our expats to live safely and legally here in Thailand and fulfill our mission. So thanks, everybody. See you next week.